This episode of Top to Bottom is sponsored by Noted Analytics. Are you tired of losing sales opportunities to the status quo? Not seeing meaningful information in CRM to help close deals? Empower your team with Noted Analytics, the first guided selling for CRM platform that uses sales methodologies like gap selling, Medic, and others to revolutionize the way revenue teams capture, evaluate, and measure sales process effectiveness. Start increasing win rates, shortening sales cycles, and growing average sales prices today. Check it out at notedanalytics.com.
And we're live.
What up, peeps? Welcome to Sales Top to Bottom. I am your host, Keenan, with Becc. Becc, what do you think about all this prime time exposure?
What prime time exposure?
Becc, what do you think? What do you think about prime time in Colorado?
Does she know? I don't think she follows college football.
That's exactly. You gave it away, numbnuts. I literally wanted to sit here and process this for 20 minutes. That was going to be half the show.
I think it's great.
Oh yeah, why?
I'm just so happy for everyone that's benefiting from the primetime exposure. It feels like a real first.
What's prime time, Becc? What's prime time?
Feels like a real turn.
What's prime time, Becc?
Airing coverage of advertisements.
Oh my God. No.
I feel like it's a win. I feel like it's a win, generally speaking.
Prime time is Coach Prime. It is Deion Sanders, who played for Dallas. Yes, sorry, Becc. Okay.
Wait, so, Deion Sanders, didn't he play baseball too?
Yeah, very good.
Really restored.
Very good. He is now the head football coach of Colorado, and he's turned Boulder, Colorado into Hollywood. Everybody's showing up to go to those games. It's awesome.
So I have a small football fact if you're interested in one.
Go Buffaloes!
Two small facts. One is I grew up with, do you remember Tony Hill, who played for the Cowboys?
Yeah. Way back. You're going back to the 70s.
His daughter was my best friend in high school, so he used to take us to Cowboys games. That's my first fun fact.
Really?
Which you would think I would have learned the rules at that point, but I didn't. And the second fun fact is I started a 49ers fan club back when it was 49ers against Dallas because I called my grandfather, P, afterwards, after the Cowboys had won, and he fake cried. I started a 49ers fan club, and they elected me president, and we would have these meetings, and my grandmother emailed Joe DeBartolo, who's the owner.
Yeah.
And he sent me an autographed Jerry Rice jersey.
Do you still have it?
7 years old. Yeah, we still have it. Yeah. Locked up in a doll case in the back.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I was the president of the 49ers.
Wow. As a 7-year-old, and that's pretty dope. If you put the year on there, that would be even better. That'd be like legit.
Ed DeBartolo, not Joe DeBartolo.
Whatever. The DeBartolo family. Yes. Well done. Well done, Becc.
You would have thought I would have learned then too, but no, she persisted.
All right. So I got another question for you really quick, Becc. Do you know who Tony Robbins is?
Yeah, he's a speaker. He's the big guy that was at Shallow Hal.
Yeah. So I figured everybody in the world knows who he is, or at least in the Western world. Like you've heard his name. I literally had a friend yesterday where I had made a reference to Tony Robbins, and he had literally no clue. Like, I was like, I even tried, like, the motivational speaker, he's been around, because he's been around since the 80s. Like, you can't escape him, right? And he literally, and then we went and looked him up. He's like, I have no idea who this guy is. I'm like, how the hell do you go through life not knowing who someone like that is?
To be fair, even when he was in Shallow Hal and I saw the movie, I didn't know who he was. The only reason I do know who he is Matt Millen over at Reggie worked for him, was like his right-hand man. That's when
well, yeah, but that's sort of my point.
Take it away.
That's sort of my point. It doesn't matter how you got introduced to him. He's so ubiquitous that I don't know how anybody doesn't know it. And so it shocks. So when you didn't, I didn't expect to know Prime, but anyway.
I mean, I was 35, 36 though when I found out. So She gives herself credibility and then she taketh away.
Take it away. How old are you now, Becc? 37?
37. How do I look?
So when does the show start? Let's go.
Now on to the first
On to the
segment
show.
of this
On to the show.
podcast, which is email teardown. This is the segment where Keenan and Becc tear down emails and messages that were sent over to them. Now on to the first email. This one is from Justin, and the subject line is, "Your services are needed. Hi, Keenan. Potential leads are within our reach and in need of your services. Though at this point, I'm assuming sales have been exponential and the pipeline is robust. If things change, let me know." Keenan, what are your thoughts on this email?
Isn't it one of two, or was that the first one he sent?
This is the only one that he sent.
Yeah, so read it again, please.
Hi, Keenan. Potential leads are within our reach and in need of your services. Though at this point,
Keep going.
I'm assuming sales have been exceptional and the pipeline is robust. If things change, let me know. Justin.
Okay. I remember why I sent this to you, and I'm going to go slightly a different tact here. This is a real learning opportunity here. The email was terrible, but I get what he was trying to do. He's like, oh, he's sort of playing, what's that, reverse psychology shit? Oh, everything's great.
Take away. They're about to be gone.
Everything's great. I'm sure you get as many leads as you want and blah, blah, blah. So, but if that's not the case, call me. Like, right? Okay, so the whole email was terrible. It was short. I give him that. I like that. It was short and easy. Mm-hmm. But this is something I want to bring up. And it's really not an email breakdown, but it really triggered me. Everybody's noticed that these lead generation companies are a dime a dozen. Mm-hmm. They're everywhere, right? And like, oh, you need leads? We get leads. We can get you leads. We can set 10 appointments a week, set 5 appointments a month. We could get you, right? And they pound your inbox and they drive you insane. And so the reason I sent you this is one of those examples where it doesn't matter what this person writes, because most people, even if they have this problem, mm-hmm. don't believe you can fix it. Mm-hmm. This is an issue here. Look, everybody on the planet would like more leads. Like that, like when I get these, this is not an issue of do I have this problem or not have this problem, right? If I have if I have $5,000 in the bank, yeah, I'd like 20. If I have 20,000 in the bank, yeah, I'd like 100. If I have 100,000, yeah, I'd like 1 million. If I have 1 million, yeah, I'd like 10 million. Okay, now maybe 1 billion. I'm not that greedy. I'd be done. But the point being is we always like more. So same things with leads. Whether I have all the leads I want, but I'll take more and I'll grow my company. Or if I'm not getting as many as I like, yeah, I will take more. But that's not the question at hand. Mm-hmm. With this type of email and this type of product or service, the issue is I don't believe you. Mm-hmm. I don't believe you for a second. So off you go. So this is an issue of belief in the product, not an issue of the actual email.
Mm. What about you, Becc? What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, well, I'll be short. It seems like a gimmick. Just feels like a gimmick, and that's what they normally do feel like. It's like, do you want to lose weight? Do you want billions of dollars? It's like to Keenan's point, you believe that you have the problem. You're just not convinced based on experience that they can fix it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now for the next one, I believe it is a voicemail.
Yeah.
That Becc would like to share with us. I'm going to put you up on the hot seat.
Speaker.
It's Ashley checking back again. I left a voicemail for you last week, so I thought I'd follow up. I do have some really good programs running right now for the fall season. Rates, again, are right around 6%. I can have the funds in your account in just a couple of days. I know the holiday seasons are coming up rather quickly, so that's something I really wanted to stress. We're pretty quick here. Give me a call when you're free. I plan to be around for a few hours. Thanks.
Okay.
What was she selling? Mortgage?
That's the point. I don't know, but the way that she phrased it was like we knew each other.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, it's Ashley, not identifying what company she's with, what she's selling, just following up. I left a voicemail last week, which she didn't. And it's just really deceptive. So even if you get the call back, you've instantly lost all credibility to me because you misled me.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think the whole thing. Oh, I'm gonna get buzzed, bammed. Yeah, the
No.
whole thing confuses me. The whole thing confuses me.
I think that's what she's hoping for, is you get confused and so you call her back.
Mm.
I'm like, 6% of what? 6% rates on what? What package are you talking about? She's like, the holiday season. I'm like, is it insurance? Is it money? And she's like,
mortgage. Is it, what do you call it? Yeah, but so it's interesting because when she did say 6%, I first thought mortgage, and I think, oh, maybe it's a like a business line of credit type of thing, because you're calling you maybe a line of credit. But then she said Christmas. I'm like, well, that has nothing to do with anything, right? Yeah.
it's deceptive.
It's sleazy. I just don't understand how people get into a job and they know they're being deceptive and they think it's okay. Like, look in the mirror, right? Look in the mirror.
All right. With that, we are on to the next segment of this podcast, which is
Sales mythology.
Hold up. This is the segment where Becc and Keenan demystify common myths in the sales industry. And the first myth of today is discovery questions are questions you ask a prospect to gauge whether or not they are a good fit for your product or service. Becc, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, so I switched gears this time, and instead of coming myths, I just went to Google and searched discovery questions and looked saying that they are. And the reason it's impactful to me is
I think Becc has an internet
you
problem.
could
Yeah.
number of different angles.
Becc, you have an internet problem. Can you hear him? Can you hear him?
No,
Man?
I think she broke up completely.
All right.
Hey, Keenan, why don't we put it out for you?
I'll answer. I'll give you my 2 cents. Well, Becc tries to fix her internet problem down there in Texas. She did a better job when she was in France. Look, she's still talking. She doesn't even know that we can't even hear her. She doesn't even know. So here's my answer to that question, right? The answer is no. Now, there are the downstream effect of a really good discovery will allow you to determine if your product or service is a good fit, but that is not the objective. The objective of a good discovery is really simple and straightforward, and too many salespeople just cannot get this through their head. It is amazing how hardwired salespeople are. Even after I've trained them, where they've gone through our sales training, or they've read the book, or I don't know, someone else has taught them this, they can't get it through their head. Your job is to uncover what is happening today inside that organization that would warrant them to change. That is your primary objective of discovery. Is this company, person, organization, environment struggling with a thing or a handful of things or a set of things that are so encumbering, debilitating, irritating, etc., that staying where they are is not an option or a poor option? That is your job of discovery. That's it. That is in a nutshell. And if you cannot figure that out, then you are not selling. You're taking orders. And just because a customer says to you, I want or I need, and this is why I want it and need it, if that why is not tied to a full understanding of why they can't stay where they are, you're hosed. And I'll leave it with this and pass to Becc. It's not just, I don't have visibility into XYZ, or it takes me too long to do a process. That's not enough. Like, why do you give a shit that it takes too long to do a process? And how is that undermining your business or your business objectives? And if you cannot get to that, then you haven't done a good discovery.
All right, Becc, are you back on?
She is, but she's
I think she still might be frozen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Oh, I saw some movement. All right. While we continue to wait for Becc to get back onto the
I
internet,
want to tell her parents to get off, stop freaking streaming Freak or some shit, man.
Garrett M. Gervin commented, Keenan is fired up. Let's go.
I know, that's funny. He said that. Thank you, Garrett. I'm exhausted today. Like, I just had what do you call those? An espresso. And I really drink coffee that often, but I had to take a nap right before the show. I'm exhausted.
Oh.
Exhausted. Yeah. So I'm glad it doesn't show.
Hey, well, let's get on to the next sales myth of today, Keenan. This one is, during a sales discovery call, sellers ask the prospective customer questions in order to help the customer understand how their company can assist the customer.
All right, ask it again. I got sidetracked by Arun Sinha's comment. I'll have to address that in a minute. But
it is during a sales discovery call, sellers ask the prospect questions in order to help the customer understand how their company can assist the customer.
No. So if I'm hearing that right, so the questions are I'll be asking you how you think I can help you?
Exactly.
No, that's ridiculous. No, Jesus, no. Like, I mean, that would be like going to a doctor and saying, okay, doc, how do you think you can, wait, I'm trying to do this. No, a doctor asking you. So I'm the doctor and it's like, Min, so how do you think I can help you? Right? Do you think maybe I could prescribe you some Oxycontin? Oh, do you think maybe you should get an x-ray? Or do you think maybe we should do a CAT scan? What do you think we should do? Right? Yeah. That's literally what that question is asking. And that is absolutely ludicrous. It's by asking the buyer what they think how they think your product or service can help them is basically giving away all your credibility. Like literally saying, I don't know. Just you tell me and I'll just, right? How can you feel comfortable in that? Literally, how could you feel comfortable in that? I mean, I don't think people get it, right? I can't see the time. It's probably going to ding me, but
we still have 4 minutes. Yeah. We still have time.
So, and Becc just texted, so I'll let you read that and see what's up. But yeah, no, I mean, look, the purpose of a salesperson is to help, right? I wrote Gap Selling, and I say it in the book. The number one job of a salesperson is to help. And the only way you can help somebody is, okay, watch this. The only way to help somebody is the 3 W's. And even though the 3 W's, wealth, wisdom, or work, okay? A salesperson is not bringing wealth to the table. So if you're talking to someone and they have a problem, you're not bringing wealth. You're not paying them or giving them money. So that's off the table. And the second thing is you're not doing any work. You're not going to go in and do work for your client. So that's off the table. So the only thing you're bringing to help somebody as a salesperson is wisdom. They're going to do the work and the wealth. You're bringing the wisdom. So if you bring no wisdom, you're not helping them. All you're doing is reacting and taking an order. They'll figure it out themselves. Say, great, I'll take that ERP. Great, I'll take that. I'll take outreach. Great, I'll take Chat GPT. I don't know, right? With no help from you. If you want to help your buyer, you have to have wisdom. And so the only way to have wisdom is to understand their world, your products, impacts, the root causes. Our man here, excuse me, sorry guys. He says, I think he's referring to what is sometimes called the implication of the problem from spin. So yeah, I think if you go into spin and you take a narrow definition, yes, problem and implication, but there's more to that because spin doesn't address the root cause. So you have to understand the whole concept. What is the business problem? What is the impact of that business problem on the business? And then what is causing it in the first place, the root cause? And your ability to help the client see that in a holistic view, particularly from the root cause perspective, the nuances of that, what happens if it doesn't get solved, how it plays out, beginning to help the buyer see the impacts and expanding their understanding of the impacts. Oh, it's not just you're not making any money. What happens if you don't make money this period of time? Do you have a growth strategy? right? Where are you trying to grow to? Why are you trying to go that growth strategy? Are you looking for an exit anytime soon? Are you trying to beat the competition to a certain spot? Are you trying to drive enough revenue and EBITDA so that you can, might work this time. So you can invest in a new product, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have got to come to the table with a lot more than just, what do you think I should do for you?
Mm-hmm.
She's this poor Becc. I feel bad for Becc.
I know. Becc, are you able to get online?
Hear me?
Very robotic.
Oh gosh.
I know we're devastated, Becc. I'm carrying the show. We lost her again. All right, ding me because I think I'm at ding time. Am I at ding time?
No, we have 45 seconds. In the meantime, let me ask you one more thing. It is, once you find the technical problem in discovery, you're good to start mapping the features of your product to the technical problem.
No. So I love this, and I'm not going to have enough time. But one of the greatest assets of gap selling and understanding of powerful discovery is understanding you got to get all three: problem, impact, root cause. Because if you start mapping to the root cause, but you don't understand the problem, this goes back to what we did before. If you don't understand the problem, you don't know why they should buy in the first place. You don't understand the impact to the business and why they should change. Watch what I'm doing, everybody. If you don't understand the business problem, you can buzz me.
We'll keep it short.
If you don't understand the business problem and the impact, then you don't know why they have to change. You haven't found that piece that says, I can't stay where I am. So once you get them to say, I can't stay where I am, this business problem and impact are too detrimental to my org, that is the reason to change. But the root causes builds the confidence that you can solve it. The root causes of why it exists in the first place. The root causes where you bring your credibility to say, well, this is why you're here. This is why this is happening. And so the way we solve this problem is we address these root causes that you've expressed. So by addressing these root causes, we'll make it go away. So the root cause is where the confidence comes from the buyer that you can solve it. So that knucklehead over there in the email earlier, we don't trust that he understands the true root causes and they can solve that better or differently or solve it at all. So root causes are where you build the credibility, you can solve it, but the problem and impact is on the buyer side that says, I need to change. I can't stay where I am. That's where the motivation to change and buy comes from.
All right, perfect. And with that, we are on to the next segment of this podcast, which is
Take it or leave it.
This is the segment where I introduce common sales tactics, and Keenan and Becc let us know whether they would take it or leave it. And the first one of today,
with Keenan, will take it or leave it.
With Keenan, we'll take it or leave it. And we're gonna go through. We're gonna go through a whole list.
Man, I'm carrying the team.
Well, the first one of today is announcing this is a sales email or this is a cold call at the beginning of outreach. To be honest, take it or leave it.
I leave it all day long. They know it. If I'm getting an email from somebody I don't know, and in the first sentence they're asking me a question or making a suggestion or something like that, or providing some level of insight, I already know what it is. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just silly. I think it's silly to say. As a matter of fact, I would say it goes a step further, and you run the risk of them not reading anymore. Right? Mm-hmm. It's just wasted words. You got to be short. Don't waste it with, okay, this is a cold call.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Okay. The next one of today is taking selfies and putting them on LinkedIn. Take it or leave it.
Just like a straight selfie, like I'm sitting at my desk or I'm out at the beach and taking a selfie?
Well, I guess let's put it into two separate situations. I guess the first situation would be, yes, they're just posting random selfies. But what about the people who post selfies, but then write something quote unquote inspirational so that like they put out their post for the day?
Okay. I'm a huge fan of content. So I am not going to make this a freaking TV. So I'm going to say, take it from a business perspective. Right. Business. Or no, I'm changing my mind. I'm taking it from a value perspective. So content to me is all about value. Okay. So I don't have a lot of personal relationships on LinkedIn. I mean, I have some, but of all my followers, most of them are driven by some relationship through gap selling, ASG, or the business, right? So if I'm going to do a selfie, is going to be some value, business value, sales value, some type of value to my audience around why my audience follows me on LinkedIn. So I can't imagine how or why a selfie would ever provide that value, to be honest with you, on LinkedIn. So I probably wouldn't do it. But if you can, then do it. And what I mean by this is content, taking a selfie on Facebook or taking a selfie on Instagram, where a lot more of those people are my friends, and the value that I'm bringing in those platforms is keeping people up to date, keeping people aware of what I'm doing in my life. That's why sometimes they follow people on those more personal platforms, is because they want to know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So it's really more about value. So I don't really care what the content is, as long as you understand what value are you bringing to your audience. And the majority of time, when people post selfies, they're not providing any value. They're trying to extract value. Look at me, check me out. You look great. You're beautiful. You're cool. Where are you? They're trying to extract value for themselves. And that's the wrong reason. So the answer is, I don't care what your content is. It better be providing value, not extracting value.
Okay. The next take it or leave it for today is using lines like, I know you're busy and I don't want to waste your time to build empathy. Take it or leave it.
Oh, I hate that. It doesn't even build empathy. What it basically says, it's sort of a slap in the face, right? Mm-hmm. It's, I know that I'm about to punch you, but I'm going to punch you anyways. If you really, really, truly had the empathy and you didn't want to waste my time, then you wouldn't send the fucking email in the first place. Mm-hmm. Right? So look, one of the things salespeople need to do and sales organizations need to do, they need to lead into the fact that I'm a salesperson. Yep, that's what I do. Here I am, is what I make happen. That's my job, and own it. Own every second of it. And once you own it, then what you need to do is ask yourself in your head, I know I'm wasting their time. So I'm going to rephrase it. I know I'm interrupting them, not wasting their time. I know I'm interrupting them. So what am I going to do to maximize the value they get from my email? How can I make this worth the 2 or 3 minutes that I'm asking them to read this, so that they don't feel like I'm wasting their time? And in some cases, they feel I actually did it something good for them.
All right. Now we're on to the next segment of this podcast. Hopefully Becc will be able to join us whenever.
And everybody listen, if you got I don't know if we'll be able to get to it, but if you got a question or something, throw it in here. Because Beck's not here, so I got a little extra time on all these questions. Poor Becc.
100%. So we're on to the next segment, which is
the inbox.
This is the segment where Keenan answers questions from our audience. And to help with that, we have our lovely mailbox right here. Let's see what type of questions we have here. So the first one is from Bill Dennis from Maryland. He asks, I'd like to understand the ideal time gaps between sequences to avoid the risk of causing recipients to unsubscribe or disengage. What are your thoughts to strike the right balance and prevent coming across as annoying in your outreach efforts?
Wow.
What are your thoughts?
I love that question. I loved it about 2 years ago. I still love it now. I'm going to go on the record, and I wish I'd done this before, but I kind of did, but I wish I was more emphatic. And by the way, I hope I'm wrong at the end of the day. I hope we turn this table, but the truth of the matter is, outbound is dead, people. It's freaking dead. And until somebody, not a few outliers, but until enough people can come to me and show me that it's worth the effort now, I just can't get behind it. The amount of calls and emails and AEs are sending out and the sequences they're doing, nobody's answering anymore. Nobody's answering. Nobody's doing nothing. Yes, I get it. Can't say nobody. Like, there's literally people who jumped out of an airplane, the parachute didn't open and they survived. Okay. Mm-hmm. So when you have 7 billion people in the world, I can find people who've experienced everything. Okay. Struck by lightning and lived, like, whatever. glass every day because I think it's funny. Like we can find everything. But to his question, if you have to do this and if you continue to do this, I like about 3 days between every interaction. And here's why. And I'm man enough in this one to say that you should ask a lot of people, and you should go ask buyers. Go find some people that are buyers a lot and ask them what they like to see. But the reason I'm picking this isn't because I'm quote unquote a guru and influencer and this is my recommendation. I'm literally giving this to you as a buyer's perspective. I appreciate when somebody stays in front of me. I really do. Like I'll get stuff all the time, but I'll get one thing or two things and then they're gone. Now, if I really hate it, I'll say no thanks. I really do. I'm like, I'm not going to make this person keep. I'm like, no thanks, and I move on. And if they hit me up again, then I delete and put it in spam. But if it's something that kind of interests me and I haven't gotten to it yet, I like the fact that this person keeps hitting me up about twice to 2.5 times per week because it stays in front of me. It like stays top of mind and it forces me to address it. Right? I have a responsibility. I'm a big boy. If someone's sending me emails and I don't want those emails anymore, I just need to say, please stop. Right? That's all there is to it. And if I don't say, please stop, and that's beginning to get on my nerves, it's similar to having a brother or sister who's flicking you and you don't say anything and you just sit there and they keep flicking you and you get irritated, more, and then you scream at them. It's like, all I had to say was stop flicking me. And if you don't stop flicking me, now I'm irritated. But just say something. So, yeah, I personally like a cadence about every 3 days, which equates to about 2.5 times in a week. Yeah, but 2.5 times in a week. Different messages. Stay on top of it. Give me new information. And I'll be, I remember this person. I want to look at this. Or no. This is twice. I'm not interested. Beat it. That's my recommendation.
Okay, the next one for today is from John Jarvie from Life Design Analysis. He says, I'm new to gap selling, and I've been working on incorporating the techniques in my discovery meetings. In a recent discovery meeting, I asked the prospect about their strategic initiatives to hit their revenue targets. The plan they outlined was terrible. I know this because I've experienced their plan with other prospects and clients I've worked with. How do I properly challenge their opinion without offending the prospect?
Okay, this is an extremely nuanced question, which I think highlights the power of gap selling. And I don't know if I can properly answer it, but I will do my best. First off, I want to know what he sells. Because the first thing that jumped out at me is if you ask someone, what is your strategic approach to what? Strategic approach to what?
To hit their revenue targets.
Hit their revenue targets. What do you sell that actually influences that? Like this is the very first thing I'm thinking about. Because even as somebody who sells sales training, I don't affect someone's strategic approach to hitting their number. I don't touch strategy at all. I touch the sales part, right? But okay, you can pound me, but
I still have a little bit of time.
Yes, but I don't touch the strategy. But so my intuition is telling me that this person never should have asked that question in the fucking first place. Right? Like, I don't know that there are too many products or services out there that literally impact someone's strategy development. I just don't. So, and if it does, then I'd want to know what questions did he ask before then, right? Did he understand the current state problems? Are they not at their strategic direction or at their revenue? How long have they not been at their revenue goals? What was the strategy before this one? So is this when he says, what is your strategy thing? Is that what they're executing on now? Or is that a new one they're looking to execute later? Like there's so much to that fucking question that I don't know how to answer it other than if you asked all those questions and if you got the right information and if you understood their business, you should have been able to challenge it by asking questions. So as they gave it to you, they might have said, one of our things is to invest in cats and umbrellas. And you would say, oh, I noticed cats and umbrellas. Well, understanding what you're currently doing or how things work out, have you found that cats and umbrellas really don't return like you had hoped? Like, I know this is a stupid example, but you should know. If it's stupid, you should know why it's stupid. You should know the downfalls. You should understand the pitfalls. And all you have to do is ask the question, have you found when you do this, this happens?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you do it. Becc, you're back.
Becc.
What was the problem, Becc?
I don't know. I still don't know.
Well, you're
Well,
here.
hey, would you like to answer some the inbox questions, or should
Why
we
don't,
go on?
why don't we just go to the challenge? Go to the challenge.
Okay, sounds good. Let me.
We missed you, Becc. I was flailing.
Oh my gosh, you weren't flailing.
Oh, I was dying on the vine. You should. People say, "Get Becc back." Keenan
This,
sucks.
this is a great example though of a problem that's worth solving because of the impact. That I'm like, if any other time my computer had shut down or taken a long time to blah blah, but the thing that drove most of the change, I would have paid $300 to get my computer working again, because the problem combined with the impact that I can't be on here, it's inconsistent, makes, on and on. This is the first podcast we've had, in a couple of weeks. Before that, we took some weeks off, so people haven't gotten it. So retention of users and on and on. That's what drives a problem. That's what makes a problem. Would I be willing to spend $300, $500 tomorrow to fix my computer login? No, but I would have been right now.
Did you know that's why that's why most plumbers, electricians, etc. make you pay up front?
Oh yeah, because you lose desire because the impact's gone.
Yeah, particularly on the 24-hour ones, like where it's like the washing machine the heat's out, or it's bubbling over, the toilet's bubbling over, right? Because they learned that you'll pay anything right now.
Totally.
Once that shit's fixed, you're like,
Another great example is I was presenting at Unleash last week, my first time presenting at Unleash, and they were having
dog walking service.
No, it's Outreach Conference, and there's 1,000 people in the room. It's my first time speaking there, and Seattle Convention Center, where they had it, was just having tech issues. So at first my deck was glitching in and out, and then it was advancing slides ahead of me, so I had to keep backtracking. We had a fire emergency alarm at minute 20, and then halfway through it just cuts out, so I have no deck. So I literally looked at the crowd and I said, I'm going to close my eyes, and I just need you to clap for me. Because this is my worst nightmare for sure coming true. And so they just lose it. And I'm like, but this is a good example. I said, I'm going to try and do the rest of this by memory. And it's a 75-page presentation. So
of course it was. Of course.
If there was someone at the bottom of this stage right now who said, I'll fix it for $1,000 or $2,000, I would have paid for it in the moment. So I'm like, the pain is the tech going down. But I'm like, what's the impact of that? And they're like, oh, well, you're going to lose your audience. There's 1,000 people in here. It's your first time at Unleash. Maybe they won't ask you back. All the clips are ruined. People, retention of the material. It's already complex enough. So it's less for me, is more so for them. So I'm like, that's what would have driven a $2,000 purchase, no problem. And I would have thanked that person in the moment. But I'm like, yesterday, would I have paid $2,000 to get a deck working? No, no way.
So here's the cool part. Here's the really cool part. So everybody pay attention. Everybody listening, pay attention to what I'm about to say right now, because this is where salespeople fall completely apart. Everything Becc just said is true. Everything. It is factual, concrete, true for Becc. So if you were selling get your presentation working.com, and you were out trying to sell your getyourpresentationworking.com, you would approach every buyer like Becc. And you're like, are you afraid if it goes down? Oh, yeah, it goes down. How often does it go down? And are you afraid you need to buy my service? And Becc, and a lot of Beccs might. But then you'd come to me and I'd be like, I'm not buying your service. And you'd be like, why? Because the impact to me is far less. I actually perform just as well, if not better, in a improvisational fashion. So I only use decks to keep me on track. If it goes down, okay, yeah, I don't like it. I may miss something here, miss something there, but no, let's go. I'm in. No, I'm not concerned about those things. The impact to me, based on my current state, based on, this is physical and literal, my personality type, my unique presentation style, which is all unique to me, that problem doesn't manifest itself as much.
Size of the deck, that's another thing.
Yeah, I don't use a deck that big.
Material,
Yep,
like
yep.
your deck going down doesn't mean as much, because it's like I needed those definitions for the audience to read,
Yep.
for the audience to have. But I'm like, one last one, then I promise we'll move to the
But drive that point home, Becc. I think we need to drive that point home, is that just because two people have the same problem does not mean the impact is the same. And reps don't get that. They're like, oh, you both have the same problem. You both need to buy.
And they ask leading questions. So the last piece is here. When I was headed to that Oscar de la Renta thing, my shirt was wrinkled. So I sprint to a shop and I'm like, hey, can you steam this or I'll buy a new one? That shirt was $250, but to me, it's worth it. So she said, I can steam it. And I'm telling her the story as she's steaming it. And she asked me a very important question. She said, are you planning on taking that shirt in that bag back home? And I said, yeah. Why? She's like, it'll wrinkle just the same. It will be the same whenever you get it home. And the credibility she built with me in that moment, as opposed to asking me, if she would have asked me, what's the impact to you if you still have a wrinkled shirt? I would have killed her.
Yes.
I don't have the time to walk you through what I already know the impact is.
Yes.
But when she found a problem, then it would have eradicated all the work that we just did. And I think people, to your point, they can't get their mind around that. Did I have budget beforehand to fix my computer for the podcast? No, I didn't have a pre-arranged set out budget to solve for a computer issue, but I would have paid $500 10 minutes ago.
Yep.
Anywho,
100%.
Keep going.
All right. With that, we are on to the next segment of this podcast, which is
The Challenge.
This is the segment where Keenan and Becc break down a challenging subject in the sales industry. And today's challenge is how to avoid asking self-diagnosis and leading questions. Becc, why don't we start you off with this one?
The punchline is shift your mindset. So the reason people, from what I find, my experience, is they're asking self-diagnosis questions and they're asking leading questions because their agenda is to get someone to feel like they need to buy or want to buy, or for them to say out loud the words that they need to buy, and this is the reason as to why. So if they just shift their agenda, now self-diagnosis questions for a small piece are important, meaning it helps me build my expert diagnosis. So patient walks in the room and I'm like, why'd you come in here today? Why are you here today? And they have self-diagnosed that portion. I'm in here because I think this is the problem. Then I'm like, why do you think that's the problem? On and on. But if you're only asking self-diagnosis questions, and now that I take a look back at these questions, I'm like 99% are self-diagnosis questions or leading questions. So if you just shift your agenda to my goal is to diagnose as much stuff as I can, specifically the things that they don't know, and specifically the things that they don't know that I believe, based on what I've learned so far, is going to impact them in a great way, then all of a sudden you wouldn't waste a question on what would the impact to you be if your computer continues to stay down. You would shift. So I think that I'm going to lead with that and pass to Keenan, that the first thing that you need to do is instead of asking the question of how do I get this person to think in a certain way, or believe something, or think that they should buy. Lawyers and doctors both ask questions. The difference is their agenda. The lawyer has a static point that they want to prove something to be true. And the doctor wants to understand so that they can diagnose. So I'm like, if you shift your mindset to the doctor mindset of my goal is to diagnose as quickly, effectively, and accurately as possible, specifically the things that they don't know, with the goal of uncovering a misdiagnosis or misdiagnosis, usually both of those will be alleviated, meaning you won't waste your time on either one of those types of questions. Keenan, what do you think?
Yeah, I like what you said about your motive. What is your motive? And I think we need to understand, and I said it earlier in the show, your motive should be to help. I just, I have the most inappropriate metaphor that I will never be able to share with anybody, but I've always been trying to think of a better one. But there are people who have learned that by making someone else feel good, by putting someone else's feelings first, not with platitudes and shit like that, but just a genuine commitment entering into the relationship. I know what's important to this person, and I know that I'm here to help this person, and they're asking for my help or they're asking for my participation. By putting me on the back burner and just focusing on them, by default, I win because they come back to me and I get the downstream effects, right? But salespeople just have a hard time understanding that. And so my short answer is, to stop asking self-diagnosing questions is to literally start with what I said before. Change your mindset from I'm trying to sell something to I'm trying to help them. And this is the key. Once the buyer starts to recognize that you're trying to help them, then they start looking at you as like, oh, they're just trying to help me. So then their next natural thought is, well, can they help me? And if they get to, yes, this person can help me, they're locked in. They're like, oh, they're only trying to help and they can help. Here, take me. Like, you've got me. You own me, right? And this is something I want to read. And this is straight from Becc. This is the problem we have. Becc has the levels of pain. Their last one is it's identify, indicate, and implicate. This is why I'm on a mission to change the way the world sells. And this is why I'm a bit indignant when people try to compare gap selling to all the other ones, whether on the surface they feel the same. This is a direct quote. You want your customer feeling sad, feeling sweaty, feeling horrible, and make the prospect feel the pain. That says your motivation is to make them feel that pain so you can sell something. That's never my motivation. My motivation is to get them to understand what's going on, understand why it's happening, and then help let them see that there is actually a way out. And so that I want to get the customer to optimism, to confidence. That's where I want to take the buyer. And that, therefore, is a helping frame, where a selling frame, or I want to do this for me, is make them feel bad so I can capitalize on those feelings.
So I have something I want to get your thoughts on. You're going to think it's funny. So
If I don't.
Yeah, I know. There's a little gate below you that you'll just be sucked into the middle.
Oh, okay.
So I was teaching at UTD, University of Texas Dallas, yesterday.
Ooh.
And I was talking about men's
Go Comets.
They're called the Comets? Oh, that's awful.
Oh yeah, this is our sign. They call it the it's like a comet, you know. Then they call it the mini whoosh.
So and I said, well, the first thing that you need to do, your goal is diagnosis. You're trying to diagnose. So for instance, I said, and there's a group of students, keep in mind, who have no sales experience, right? Like, professionally speaking. And I said, let's say that someone says, I have a problem with quota attainment. What's a good question to ask next? And someone raises his hand and he says, what's the current quota attainment so far?
Oh.
And they start going into questions and they're like, well, define the quota. You know, what is the quota set on? What's your current quota attainment so far? What's the definition of an SQL? And they start asking all these questions. And something changed for me. So I'm like, those, compared to what I've heard other reps ask, were incredibly good questions. And this is a group of students with no experience.
Because they haven't been, what's the word? They haven't been
Indoctrinated.
Indoctrinated. That's the word. Yeah. They've been
what their motives should be. And they got it right away. And I was like, let's double down here. I'm going to tell you a quote that I know from a very famous sales trainer. There's probably, who knows how many people. I said, the quote is that sales is a Broadway play put on by a psychologist, and all of them lose their mind in laughter and steam. And they were like, that's ridiculous. I'm like, correct. And I'm like, you are now deemed smarter, or you know how to sell better, from my perspective, than 99.9% of the sellers out there, because you know that that's ridiculous. Because I'm like, what's the goal? They're like, well, first of all, Broadway play is one way. It's a performance. Doesn't need the audience. Doesn't need answers from them. So I feel like the point of this is, the reason people believe this and have such a hard time going after the problem is because their mind has been bent for years that the agenda should be to sell, because a group of college students very easily identified that that was a crazy, messed up statement. That's all I'm going to say. Keenan, you take it from here.
No, let's have fun. Let's watch hey, really quickly. I don't think we'll get in real quick, but everybody, what question should they have asked when somebody says, what would they say? We're having a hard time making
having a problem with quota attainment.
We're having a problem with quota
having a bad problem with quota attainment.
We have a bad problem with quota attainment. Everybody here is watching. What question would you ask right there? Let's see what they say. We'll give them quick. What was the delay? So we have to let.
Oh yeah, and then there's a decent delay, like 13 seconds.
13 seconds.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So I'll give it a second. Then I'll give the answer. What I think. It's pretty simple. I think Becc and you and I.
I'm going to put what I think it would be in the chat. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's.
And I what?
It's pretty simple, right? It's pretty. Oh, she's drinking strawberry. You don't like the grape anymore, huh?
Well, yeah, but no, I like the grape still. But this is a new one. Okay, keep going. I know what my question would be.
How did you come to the quota? No. Like maybe later, but
it's not a bad question.
Yep, it's not a bad question, but it's way too narrow. Way too narrow. So here's the answer, everybody. Really, could you share a little more information, or could you tell me a little more about the problem or issues you have with getting to quota?
I wanted to answer at the same time. I was like, can you tell me more about the problem? What do you mean? Like, can you walk me through the problem that you're having?
Yeah. Tell me a little more about this challenge of getting to quota. What's going on? Like everybody, there it is. Really simple. Tell me a little more about this problem hitting quota. What's going on? That's it. And shut the fuck up.
The point of this was, though, this was a 19-year-old. And I'm like, out of the scale of questions that this person could have asked, I'm like, I'd give them a 9 in relation to what I've seen people ask.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
They blow right through it most of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's actually relatively simple.
But look at these pros on here. I don't want to, well, okay. So, but even the two people that answered on here, one said, how do you come to the quota? Another one said, what do you think is causing that? Like what do you think is causing that is self-diagnosis.
That self-diagnosis.
Right, Nicholas, that self-diagnosis. You as a pro, now granted, I get it. You may not sell anything that relates to sales, quota attainment, which is fine. But as someone who sells something that gets that, so let's say it's outreach you sell, let's say it's gong you sell, let's say it's something that helps sales, you would better damn well know. I know exactly what prevents that. So rather than me telling them or asking a self-diagnosing question, which you did here, Nicholas, which everybody does, we were just talking about that, put it back on the buyer. Hey, because guys, listen, everybody, we want the buyer to be talking. We want the buyer to be thinking. So don't just ask them to explain what's going on. Then when you get all the answers, you can start asking those more specific questions to fill in the blanks. But boy, let them go.
But even that question of what's causing it, that's the question that you should be asking internally in your own mind. But you shouldn't be asking the prospect.
Yes.
One. And I should be asking the questions that help me understand what I believe the root cause is. So I'm like, what do you believe the root cause is? They're like crappy emails. You're like, okay, it's crappy emails. And I'm like, but the goal of the exercise is to correct something that might be incorrect.
Yeah.
So that was my main problem behind reps entering how the call went. That I'm like, I don't want to know. I do want to know how you think the call went and why, so I can understand. Did you get the right answer, wrong math? Right math, wrong answer, or wrong to both, or right to both. But I'm like, I'm just like, send me the call because I want to diagnose if it's like, what's causing your quota attainment problem? I'm like, well, there's only 7 for an SDR. It's going to be quantity, quality. So I'm like, hey, can you, like, this is later again, after you told them to walk you through the problem. But I'm like, can you tell me how many emails are you sending per day? How many calls are you making per day? What is the open rate? What's the connect rate? What's the reply rate? What time of day are you? And even those are discovery questions for them. They usually have to share their screen because they don't even know that information. But it's like, anywho, but I was really impressed that I'm like, I think most of the problem is agenda. What's one last thing? Learn one last thing.
Yes, we are on to the last segment of this podcast, which is...
Oh, listen, just one more thing.
This is the segment where Keenan and Becc share what's on their mind and give us their closing thoughts. Keenan, what is your just one more thing for today?
I think I've talked about this before, but as I continue to talk with heads of sales, CROs, VPs, and a lot of time now frontline sales managers, the complete lack of understanding of what a good opportunity looks like and how you define a good opportunity, and then how you move that opportunity through the sales cycle. That is the biggest blind spot in sales organizations right now. It is beyond my comprehension. It is such a blind spot that I don't think it's going to get solved. That's how big a blind spot it is. They just don't get it. And so what I want to say to people is, if you're running a sales organization right now and your win rate has stayed the same for as long as you've been there, or you've only seen a modicum of fluttering between, I don't care what the number is, right? Modicum of fluttering like this, I could argue that you are not doing your job. Because if you haven't figured out a way to grow win rate, you're spending millions and millions of dollars in the pipeline and you're wasting your time. We see this. Everybody talks about pipeline. Nobody is talking about conversion and win rate. And it can be managed. It can be evaluated. It can be measured, all of it. But no one's doing it. Literally, no, they think they're doing it, but they're not. So I just see it's a massive hole. And if you want to improve your organization, if you want to grow your organization, if you want to grow your status in the sales world, you need to come up with processes that allow you to grow that. And one main process is this: how do we internally define an opportunity as it progresses? So we're all not even, some people at least give you a real measure for qualified opportunity, right? Some, whether I like it, I don't really give a shit at this point, whether it's banned or spam, I don't really give a shit. But what they do after that, and what they're looking for and how they measure that this is actually going to close, what things are we focused on? And they can't be how many times you've reached out. They can't be how many times you check the task. It can't be if you're talking to the decision maker. No. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the real quantitative information with inside that specific organization and what's driving them to close. We have no idea. Because we have no idea, we don't focus on it. Because we don't focus on it, we get to the end of the sale. All we say is, well, what do we need to do to close this? What do we need to do to close this? What do we need to do to close this? And then we just start discounting. Huge opportunity for growth, or huge hole in the sales world.
All right, Becc, what is your just one more thing for this week?
Well, I had one in my head, but now I don't know which one to do. Do y'all
Here's
want
your chance to reach out to Xfinity and tell them to fix the internet.
Yeah, exactly. So, do y'all want we could either do who owns the buck
The Milwaukee Bucks?
in terms of responsibility.
Oh.
For who owns the buck and the responsibility and weight of selling, or we can go to
This is your last thing.
The value of a system. Which one do y'all want? Self-diagnose.
I want the one you're going to pick. I'm not letting you off the hook. This is your pick. But you got to pick.
I'll do the first one. Oh, getting undelayed.
The snaps.
I almost wanted to say, well, that's our podcast. We have a great responsibility in sales, and I think a lot of people would say, well, that's a lot of work. I don't like to learn my buyer, to get to know them, to do to know statistics, to know industry benchmarks, to read a book, to educate yourself, to be on that journey. And I think that we put it a lot of times on other people. Well, sales enablement didn't educate me, or my leader didn't coach me, or like, oh, this program has horrible training, or whatever it is. But I'm like, the flip side of that coin of how you could look at it, which I would encourage people to look at it, is there's never been a hero in a situation that didn't take on the responsibility and the downside first, right? Like, they volunteered for tribute, so they're the one who the spoils go to. And I think we have one shot, and that is right now, to turn sales. And it has never been easier. Go to Google your buyer, find out what your buyer is talking about, what's affecting them, especially the stuff that they don't know. Or my plea with you is to get out of sales, because that's what they need, and that's who we need to be for them. And if you're not willing to do that, I'm begging you to get out of sales. Go into marketing, go into whatever you want, and develop a technical expertise of like what it is to be a good HR leader, whatever it is. But if you are in sales, you have to know your buyer. It is table stakes. Empathy isn't table stakes, or being human isn't table stakes, blah, blah. What is table stakes before that? If you really want to be human to them, don't tell them personal stories about your life or details of what you did that day to make them like you. Learn about them. Learn about the details of their day first. That is what you have to do for them. Otherwise, we're going to, roll this thing out. I asked people 2 questions. I'm like, what do you think of when you think of a salesperson? They're like sleazy, manipulative, pushy, aggressive, blah, blah. I'm like, cool. Second question, 20 years ago, do you think that people saw us differently? They're like, no. I'm like, so what that tells you is that if we don't change something today, we will die, be on our deathbed, having been a part of a profession that is known for all of that. And even though you didn't technically lie, or you didn't technically blah, 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 you didn't do anything to stop it or change it or be the difference that you want to see. So I'm like, if you are in sales, please study your buyer for yourself, for them, for our profession. Please, please, please pick up a book and start to study your buyer. And I think everyone around you will thank you for it. That's it. That's my one last thing.
Woo! Well, that's our podcast.
All right, everybody. Y'all have been listening to Sales Top to Bottom. Thank you very much. I'm your host, Keenan. Till next time.
And I'm back. Hopefully, see you next week.
Thanks for watching the Sales Top to Bottom podcast with Keenan and Becc. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more sales content. And if you'd like to see us live, find us on Keenan's LinkedIn Live every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is Sales Top to Bottom, signing off.